Hi, this is a video on age discrimination and ageism, which is a continuation of my series of videos on this subject. I have some notes here and an outline that I'm going to share with you today that talks about how I think ageism will change and shift the U.S. economy. In one area that's going to happen is it's going to shift people into self-employment and early retirements. Ageism can start as early as late 30s. That's about the average age now where people start having kids, especially now, usually. This is a big problem in my view when it comes to ageism in the workforce. The average age to get married now is probably about 32 years old. It's a lot older than it was in the 1980s and late 90s. People are too young to retire, so a lot of the lawsuits in regards to this issue are going through the roof now, as I talked about in previous videos, but few people are winning. Technology is a big part of this problem. It's nixing out probably about 20 to 30% of our entire economy is being eliminated now. Much of that is in retail malls, movie theaters, entertainment, acting, Hollywood, small factories, many unions, and the acting unions are trying to fight this. Coupled with ageism, I think it's going to spell disaster looming for our U.S. economy in the next 5 to 10 years. People basically can't retire till they're at least about 62 years old. We're getting overpopulated with limited job options and few jobs available in many parts of the country now. Corporations, I think, are going to offer buyouts at much younger ages. It's already happening a lot in the 30 to 40 age range, definitely past 45. Therefore, I think the U.S. needs to really invest heavily into things like solar, other alternative energy, and healthcare. I also think they need to invest heavily into things like healthcare billing, fuel cells, hydrogen, fake oil, fake fuel, these kinds of things. Much of this is already happening under the Biden and the Trump administrations in the past, but we need to keep going. We have to heavily diversify our economy if we're going to have jobs, because those are the areas that are creating the jobs. One of the big results, as I stated earlier, from ageism in the workforce now, I think, is going to be more and more self-employment and people running their own businesses. I think eventually this could make America a lot more like Europe, where we become a more conservative version of a social democracy. I don't think we're going to be a socialist state like China, but I do think the taxes could go up a lot as you have more and more people becoming dependent on the government because they're simply kicked out of the workforce at younger and younger ages. Self-employment is going to be a lot bigger, especially in 10 years from now, in my opinion. Corporations don't want to pay the wages, and that's a big cause of this. I think it's basically what the cause of this is. They don't want to pay livable or higher wages for people. Nobody's paying benefits anymore. Nobody's paying retirements. That's not the issue anymore. That was the issue about 10 years ago. Now they simply don't want to pay what people are worth, and they're trying to boot them out because of their age or they're making too much money, in my view. Basically, now you got to make about $100,000 a year to be able to afford kids. People better start looking at that as they see what's happening with people getting thrown out of the workforce in their 30s and 40s or at 50. They better start looking at that because of what is happening in the workforce. They can't afford to retire, and they're leaving the workforce at much younger ages now. People need to see that. Face it, corporations only want to hire in like the 18 to 30 age bracket because they don't want to pay. Many of those people don't know how to negotiate wages. Many of them are so desperate for jobs out of high school or college, they're willing to take anything. And unfortunately, one of the results of that is that it's lowering wages and living standards for other people. It's not intentional, but I do think that is part of why a lot of this is happening. And they want younger and younger workers because they don't want to pay the older ones. Ageism and age discrimination is going to completely shift and change our entire economy, and it's not going to be a positive thing, in my opinion. If you think you've been a victim of it, please consult a lawyer. I would also consider calling your elected officials to say that the laws need reform. We maybe should look at lowering the age down to 37 or 38, or possibly making it easier to sue for age discrimination. That needs to be looked at. Please consider calling your elected reps. That's what they're there for. They work for you. This is a big problem as an issue. Thank you again for your time and your consideration. My next video is going to be on the TikTok ban and why I think the TikTok ban is a really ridiculous and bad idea. Case closed. The TikTok ban is a bad idea, and it's actually tied to a certain degree to age discrimination as an issue. Thanks again for your time. It's free to subscribe.